The courtroom was dead silent. Everyone watched as the young boy stood at the defense table, his small hands resting on the cold surface. He looked too young, too innocent to be in a place like this. But here he was, fighting for his life. The prosecutor paced the room, his voice sharp. "Ladies and gentlemen, this boy was caught red-handed. Officer Reynolds, a respected policeman, saw him commit the crime. Why would he lie?" The officer sat proudly in his uniform, his smirk barely hidden. But the boy, trembling slightly, took a deep breath. Then, he lifted his chin and spoke. "I didn't do it," he said firmly. "And I can prove it." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Even the judge raised an eyebrow. The officer's smirk faltered. The boy reached into his pocket, slowly, carefully. His mother, sitting behind him, clutched her chest. Then, bam! This is a story of resilience, justice, and a lesson delivered in a courtroom. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss a single twist before we begin. Where are you watching from today? Let us know in the comments. If you love inspiring stories of resilience and justice, make sure to hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe for more incredible tales. Your support helps us share these impactful stories with even more people. Now let's get into it. The doors burst open. A man ran inside, shouting, "Wait, I have something you need to see." The courtroom erupted in chaos. Everyone turned toward the doors. A man in a gray hoodie and jeans rushed forward, waving his phone in the air. His face was flushed, and his breathing was heavy, as if he had sprinted all the way here. The judge banged his gavel. "Order in the court." The bailiff moved quickly, stepping in front of the man. "Sir, you can't just—" "Please," the man pleaded. "This boy is innocent. I have proof." The courtroom went silent. The prosecutor's eyes narrowed. "Officer," Reynolds shifted in his seat, suddenly looking uneasy. The judge, an older man with sharp, calculating eyes, leaned forward. "Who are you?" "I'm Marcus Reed. I was there when it happened. I recorded everything." He held up his phone. "If you just let me show you, you'll see that this officer is lying." The tension in the air thickened. The officer's smirk was completely gone now. His face was stiff, his jaw clenched. The judge sighed. "Bailiff, bring me the phone." The bailiff snatched the device from Marcus and handed it to the judge, who adjusted his glasses and tapped the screen. The courtroom held its breath as the video played. The screen showed a grainy recording of a dimly lit street. The sound of heavy breathing and shuffling feet filled the room. Then, there it was, a young black boy, the young black boy, walking alone, his backpack slung over his shoulder. Suddenly, a police car screeched to a stop beside him. The door flew open. Officer Reynolds stepped out. "Hey, you! Stop right there!" the officer barked. The boy looked confused, even scared. "Me?" "Yeah, you. Empty your pockets." "But I didn't do anything. I said empty your pockets." The courtroom watched in horror as the officer shoved the boy against the car, his hand gripping the back of his hoodie. The boy struggled. The officer pulled something from his own pocket, a small bag of white powder. Then, in full view of the camera, he slipped it into the boy's hoodie. Gasps filled the courtroom. The judge's eyes widened. The prosecutor's jaw dropped. The officer's face turned pale. The video ended. Silence. Then, "Officer Reynolds," the judge's voice was sharp, cold. "Would you care to explain this?" The officer opened his mouth, but no words came out. Beads of sweat formed on his forehead. The judge turned to the bailiff. "Place this officer under arrest, immediately." The courtroom exploded into chaos. The courtroom erupted. People gasped, whispered, and even shouted in shock. The sound of the gavel striking wood echoed through the chaos. "Order in the court," the judge roared, slamming his gavel repeatedly. "I said order!" The bailiff moved fast, gripping Officer Reynolds by the arm, but the officer yanked away. His face, once smug, was now twisted in desperation. "This is a mistake. That video is fake," he shouted, looking around wildly. "I was just doing my job." The judge wasn't having it. "Bailiff, restrain him before I hold you responsible for his escape." The bailiff didn't hesitate this time. He grabbed Reynolds and shoved him against the table, yanking his hands behind his back. The officer fought, but it was no use. The metal clink of handcuffs silenced the room. As Reynolds was dragged toward the exit, he shot a furious glare at the boy. "You think this changes anything?" he hissed. "You people never win." The boy, whose hands had been trembling, slowly balled them into fists, but he didn't say a word. The judge turned to the prosecutor, who sat frozen, eyes glued to the screen. "Well," the judge demanded, "do you still wish to pursue this case?" The prosecutor licked his lips, clearly shaken. He hesitated, then shook his head. "No, Your Honor." "Good. Then case dismissed." Relief flooded the boy's body. His knees nearly buckled, and his mother grabbed his hand, squeezing it tight. Tears glistened in her eyes. "You're free to go," the judge told him. A deep breath, a single nod. The boy turned to leave, but Marcus, the man who had saved him, stepped forward. "Hold on," he said, voice firm. "It's not over." The judge raised a brow. "Explain." Marcus took another deep breath. "That cop, he's not the only one. This isn't just about one boy." He turned to the crowd. "It's about all of us." The room tensed. People exchanged glances. Marcus lifted his phone again. "I have more videos." The judge leaned forward. "More? Yeah." Marcus swallowed hard. Reynolds has been framing kids like him for years, and he's not alone. The weight of those words crushed the air from the room. The judge stared at him. Then he turned to the prosecutor. "I suggest you start digging. If what this man says is true, we may be looking at more than one dirty officer." The prosecutor nodded stiffly. "Yes, Your Honor." The tension in the room thickened once more. The judge sighed, rubbing his temple. "Then we are far from finished here." He locked eyes with Marcus. "Bring me everything you have." And just like that, the case that had just ended had only just begun. The room was silent, yet the air was heavy with unspoken tension. The judge's words rang in everyone's ears. This case was far from over. Marcus gripped his phone tightly. His heartbeat thundered as he stepped forward. This was bigger than just one cop. He knew it, and now so did everyone else. "Your Honor," Marcus said, voice steady despite the weight of his words. "I have footage proving Officer Reynolds wasn't acting alone. There are others. Other cops who did the same thing, and worse." The judge's expression darkened. "Show me." Marcus hesitated. He had been waiting for this moment, but now that it was here, his hands trembled. What if they came after him next? What if exposing this put more innocent lives in danger? But then he looked at the boy, the kid who had been moments away from losing everything. His mother still clutched his arm, holding back tears of relief. And Marcus knew there was no turning back. With a deep breath, he unlocked his phone and tapped the screen. The courtroom lights dimmed as the video played. A grainy recording flickered to life. It was nighttime. The street was dimly lit, shadows stretching across the pavement. In the footage, 3 police officers surrounded another young black teen. "Hands where I can see them," one officer barked. The boy in the video didn't even flinch. "I didn't do anything." His voice shook, but he stood his ground. "Shut up!" Another officer shoved him hard. He stumbled, barely catching himself before falling. Marcus glanced at the judge. His jaw was clenched, his eyes cold with anger. The prosecutor looked pale. Then the video took a darker turn. "Got something in his pocket," one officer muttered. He reached forward, pretending to find something. And then he pulled out a small bag of drugs. A gasp rippled through the courtroom. "You see that?" the officer sneered in the video. "What do we have, Ohe? Here. Looks like you're carrying, kid." The boy in the footage panicked. "That's not mine. That's not mine." One of the officers turned to the others and laughed. "Yeah? Tell that to the judge." The screen went black. Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. Then, boom! The judge slammed his gavel so hard the courtroom jumped. "Enough," he growled. "I've seen all I need to see." He turned to the prosecutor. "How many officers are involved in this?" Marcus exhaled sharply. "At least 4 more, and I have the evidence to prove it." The prosecutor, who had spent most of the trial avoiding eye contact, now looked sick. He wiped sweat from his forehead. We need to investigate further. We need to act now," the judge interrupted, his voice like thunder. He turned to the bailiff. "Issue warrants for every officer identified in these videos, immediately." Gasps filled the courtroom. This wasn't just a trial anymore. This was about to become a war. Officer Reynolds, still handcuffed at the front of the courtroom, thrashed violently. "You have no right," he shouted, spitting venom. "You're ruining lives over criminals." The judge shot him a glare so cold it could freeze fire. "The only criminals in this courtroom are the ones wearing a badge." The officers standing guard exchanged nervous glances. They knew. They had seen it too. Then, a sudden crash. One of the side doors burst open, and a group of uniformed officers stormed in. The crowd gasped. Marcus stiffened. The boy's mother grabbed his arm. The prosecutor paled even further. The officers were here. But were they here to make an arrest or to silence the truth? The tension in the courtroom snapped like a live wire. The officers who had stormed in were rigid, their hands hovering over their holsters. Were they here to help, or were they part of the corruption? Marcus instinctively stepped in front of the boy and his mother. He didn't trust them, not after what he had just exposed. "Judge," one of the officers said, his voice steady but unreadable. "We need to take Officer Reynolds into custody. We have orders." The judge narrowed his eyes. "Orders from whom?" A beat of silence. Then a slow, heavy voice echoed from behind them. "From me." Everyone turned. A tall, broad-shouldered man in a high-ranking uniform strode into the room. His presence alone commanded authority. His badge gleamed, and the nameplate on his chest read, "Chief Davis." The room held its breath. Chief Davis's expression was unreadable as he locked eyes with Officer Reynolds, who immediately went pale. "You really thought you'd get away with this?" Chief Davis muttered, shaking his head. Reynolds's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The chief turned to the officers who had entered with him. "Take him." The officers didn't hesitate this time. They grabbed Reynolds, yanking him to his feet. "You set me up," Reynolds hissed. He fought, but it was useless. "This is all fake. This is—" "Enough." Chief Davis's voice was cold. "We have more than enough evidence to charge you. You're done." Reynolds screamed as he was dragged away. But Marcus wasn't relieved, because something was off. Chief Davis was too calm. He had reacted too quickly, too smoothly. And when his gaze flickered toward Marcus, something passed through his eyes, something calculating. Then he turned to the judge. "Your Honor, I assure you, we will investigate all officers involved in this corruption. We will root out the bad ones." The judge held his gaze for a long moment. "See that you do." Marcus clenched his jaw. He didn't buy it. This wasn't over, because he knew, when the top starts falling, those at the very top start protecting themselves. And Chief Davis, he was too powerful to be innocent. Then, a phone buzzed. The courtroom was still in chaos, people whispering, reacting, processing what had just happened. Marcus pulled out his phone. A message from a blocked number. His stomach tightened as he read the words. "Watch your back. You exposed one, but you don't know how deep this goes." Marcus's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a few bad cops. This was something much, much bigger. And now, they knew who he was. Marcus felt his pulse hammer in his ears as he stared at the message. "Watch your back. You exposed one, but you don't know how deep this goes." His first instinct was to look around. Was someone watching him? The courtroom was still in an uproar, reporters whispering into their phones, the judge trying to restore order, the officers dragging Reynolds out of the room. But amidst the chaos, Marcus felt something off. He scanned the crowd, searching for a face that didn't belong. Then, there, near the back, a man in a gray suit stood perfectly still, his eyes locked onto Marcus. Too still, too calm. The moment Marcus spotted him, the man turned and walked briskly toward the exit. Marcus didn't hesitate. He took off after him. "Marcus, where are you going?" His mom called after him, but he barely heard her. He pushed past the crowd, dodging past security, shoving open the courtroom doors. The hallway was empty, no sign of the man. But just as Marcus slowed, he heard it. Footsteps, rushing. He sprinted toward the noise, turning a corner just in time to see the man slipping into a stairwell. Marcus charged after him. The door slammed shut behind the man. Marcus grabbed the handle, yanking it open. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed downward. The guy was running. Marcus flew down the stairs, taking them two at a time. 4th floor, 3rd, 2nd. The man was fast, but Marcus was faster. When he reached the bottom floor, he burst through the door and ran right into a gun. His breath caught. The man in the suit stood in the alley behind the courthouse, holding a silencer-tipped pistol pointed directly at Marcus's chest. "You should have let it go, Kai." "The man said, voice eerily calm. Marcus's mind raced. He had no weapon, no backup. One wrong move and it was over. The man's finger tensed on the trigger. Marcus took a slow step back. Then a car screeched to a stop behind them. Doors flew open. "Freeze!" 4 federal agents poured out, weapons drawn. The man in the suit's expression barely changed, but Marcus saw it, the flicker of annoyance. "You're good, kid," the man muttered. Then he dropped the gun. The agents tackled him instantly. Marcus exhaled for the first time in what felt like forever. One of the agents turned to him. "You all right?" Marcus nodded, his heart still pounding. "Who was he?" he asked. The agent exchanged a look with his partner. "Let's just say, you weren't wrong about this going deeper." Marcus clenched his fists. This wasn't over, not even close. He had exposed one bad cop. But now he knew the truth. There were more, and they were willing to do anything to stay hidden.